Is it on your Facebook?
Yeah, mine. Facebook.
And Twitter?
YouTube.
Is it on your Twitter?
Sports Buffoons. Not on the Sports Buffoon Facebook.
Sports Bofas. I watched a lot of Twitch this summer. The PFT commenters, or Big Cat's Coach Doug's. That stuff was so funny. He's so bad at that game. It's unbelievable.
All right, guys. We're live. We're rolling. Let's kick her off.
Welcome into the Sports Buffoons podcast.
Let's get it going, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome on in to the Buffoon Studios. We have a very special show for you today here. It is myself, Mike Settle, along with Jason JG, and we have a very special guest over here, Mr. Connor Dawson. Welcome on into the show.
What's up, guys?
Now, Connor Dawson over here is joining on in because he is actually our baseball expert of the Buffoon clan. Over here sipping on a little, what do you got, Busch Light over there?
Yes, Busch
Oh, boy,
Latte.
that's the way it should be done. JG, what are you having?
I haven't figured it out yet. I'm pretty sure it's a Jack Daniels, but I'll get back to you on that.
Wow, what the insight is just phenomenal coming from JG on what his drink of choice is. So we brought in Connor today, as a matter of fact. He is local to town, actually, from historically anyway. I guess where he's born here from over Olathe.
Olathe. Yeah.
Okay, and so he actually now works with the Seattle Mariners. His official title within the team is the coordinator of baseball hitting strategy.
Hitting strategy.
Hitting strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, coordinator of hitting strategy. That's a heck of a title. So how did you end up earning that?
Not sure, to be honest with you, but here I am.
Well, Jason, I got a few questions for Connor, but I was curious if you have something to come up with first, because I'm going to dig deep into the history of Mr. Connor Dawson here and see exactly what it took to get to the level he's at now at this point.
Yeah, so I would just start off with asking you, Connor, as the coordinator of hitting strategy, what's the most rewarding thing about your job?
So my job isn't necessarily all on the field, so I'm kind of dipped into the scouting, I'm dipped into the draft, trades, our on-field performance, our practice design, our scouting reports, our game reports. I'm kind of dipped into every department. So I think the best part is kind of seeing our on-field success match our scouting success, kind of matching our culture success, because I'm involved in each part. So seeing all of that kind of mesh is pretty fun.
Yeah, I was kind of curious just to tell us a little bit about how you got started in coaching and what kind of steps it took to get to where you're at now, and as far as in the business itself.
Yeah, so I left college. So I played at Neosho County Community College in Chanute, Kansas. And then I went to Pittsburgh State University for just a little bit and decided I despised school. Wasn't really interested in anything I was doing. The only thing I really wanted to do was stay in baseball. And so I left there and actually started coaching for the KC Bullets. It's a high school summer and fall program that I played for in high school. And I coached with them for a few years, and then I was also doing lessons and helped start an academy here in town. And then I always wanted to coach, more team-oriented things. So I was coaching the Bullets up at Benedictine College, and they had a position open, and it was kind of a student assistant position. So I was able to do some schooling as well, and coached at Benedictine for a year, and then took a job in California at a private facility out there. Was there for the summer and then went back to the college ranks as I kind of realized that, the private one-on-one stuff wasn't really where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on a team setting. And so I went to Iowa, middle of nowhere, Iowa, Marshalltown Community College. Head coach was the one who hired me at Benedictine. We took over this program that was basically in shambles. And I think they were 9 and 29 or something like that the year before we got there. And we kind of came in. We didn't have many players, didn't have many scholarships. We redid the field, total culture shift. and wound up getting with the regional final, and we lost to Iowa Western, who's one of the best junior college programs in history of college baseball. And then from there, I went to Seattle Mariners. I got a call. I was watching our regional soccer game, and they called me, and had another team call me almost 10 minutes apart. And
how they notice you though?
So I've had a little bit of a presence on Twitter, and
give them the Twitter. What's the Twitter over there?
Say what?
What's your Twitter handle?
Coach Dawes.
At Coach Dawes.
Yeah. And so a guy that I've always kind of talked hitting with for several years, a guy named Dustin Lind, who's actually now the assistant big league hitting coach for the San Francisco Giants. He was with the Mariners at the time in my current role, and he called me up and was like, hey, we're looking for a couple of coaches. You want to interview? I said, absolutely. I mean, obviously. Next thing I know, they offered me a job as their rookie ball hitting coach, and I was in rookie ball in Arizona 2 years ago, and then this past year they promoted me to my current job, and then now I'm going into year 2 of my current job. So going on year 3 of pro ball, and it's funny because I'm on my 3rd year of pro ball, and I've yet to do a full spring training. My first year, I didn't show up to pro ball until after the college season. So I never got to experience spring training my first year. And then this past year, we got canceled on March 13th, which was the first day of minor league spring training. Mm-hmm. And so I had a month of major league spring training. So I still haven't seen a full spring training, and I'm going into year 3.
And you actually live currently in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, I live right across the street from our complex. So
exactly.
Nice.
So right there in spring training hometown, and yet still not even a full spring training yet in the books. I was kind of curious that since you mentioned about working at the academy a little bit, as far as doing one-on-one work, do you think that actually helped you develop your own training method as a coach analytically to get to where you're at now?
Absolutely, and I was lucky enough to have a few resources to kind of dive into and explore more of the analytical mindset, and kind of take the analytical side of it and actually put it into action. So it gave me freedom to explore, and then I was also lucky that I worked for people that allowed me to coach and allowed me to explore at the college level, at the private side, at the high school level. Even I also coached at St. Thomas Aquinas here in town, and I was our head JV coach, and I was even able to experiment there with things. So it allowed me to kind of, I was just lucky enough to have people around me that allowed me to be myself and explore and try to find some things that worked and didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're only 26 years old, right?
26 or 7.
He forgot his own birthday.
27.
Your birthday is it the same day as Patrick Mahomes?
No.
It's close.
It's close.
All
I think
right.
he's 3 days away.
3 days apart?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think his is the 18th.
His is the 17th.
17, 2 days apart.
2 days apart, and yours
Yeah.
is the
15th.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're close.
All right, so yeah, I mean, you've obviously got a lot of experience on the technical aspect of hitting and with analytics and everything else, but I'm just curious, as a fan of sports in general, do you have a certain technique or techniques that you use to motivate players?
That's a good question. There's a lot of different ones. It kind of depends on the guy. Some guys I can really bear down and kind of get into them, which I've done many a times. I'm a JUCO guy, so that's kind of our mantra. But there's also guys you got to kind of hold their hand a little bit more, and other guys there's, more of an analytical avenue makes sense, like where you actually try to get them to think more. And other guys don't want to think, they just want to do. So it's just different approaches. Yeah, that's a good question. There's not a certain one. I prefer the one where it's actual conversation, but some guys aren't a conversation piece. Some guys are I kind of got into them a little bit, and that's okay. Like, that's different styles for different guys. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, okay, so you're very well-rounded as far as those motivational techniques. Now, I just want to throw out one other question here. Who is your favorite baseball player of all time?
That's a great question. I don't know. That's tough. I don't know if I have a specific player, I know there's a lot of players that I really like.
Who was it growing up that like stood out to you think?
I mean, I was a big Mark McGuire fan growing up.
Okay.
I mean, he hit tanks. Even
Yeah,
though
he
he's a Cardinal, and
Yeah.
as a growing up as a Royals fan, that's a sin. But
Absolutely.
I mean, my other brother was a Sammy Sosa guy, so I don't know. Something about McGuire was awesome. You
It
know,
was like the big three back then to me. It was Ken Griffey, Sammy Sosa, and Mark McGuire running the late 90s.
And I really liked like Jorge Posada growing up. I liked a lot of those Yankees, but I don't know if there's like a specific guy. I really like watching Mike Trout play. He's really fun to watch.
He's good.
Obviously, I like our guys. I think we have some really, really good players, especially young guys coming up.
Some
But
guys on the rise.
yeah, I don't know if there's a specific guy.
So if you don't have a favorite guy, is there somebody that you would say is the best? Like who is the overall best to ever play the game?
I would say Mike Trout.
Okay,
Mike
so
Trout.
Mike Trout is the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
Now you said something about Mark McGuire there. So what do you think about the steroid issue? Do you think that ruined the game back in the day?
Let's see. That's tough because there's a lot of context behind that. Because the only ones who were showcased in the whole steroid era are the McGuires, the Sosas, the big names, the Bonzes, the A-Rods. When in reality, like every backup second baseman was probably also using it, and it was probably running rampant in every minor league. But again, I don't know that for sure. But I think it was not good for the game in terms of fairness and overall just the purity of the game. But from a popularity standpoint, it was probably a really good thing for the game because it got a lot of younger people interested, and like that's obviously a positive byproduct of the steroid era. But it does absolutely destroy the purity of the game. But back then, like that was a fairly common thing, I imagine, and now it's not. But
Yeah, I feel like it was a fairly common thing, but when I look back on that, and when I was growing up, my favorite player, obviously on the Royals, was George Brett, but outside of the Royals, my favorite player was Ken Griffey Jr., and to this day, that guy, nobody ever raised an issue with him has ever done steroids.
yeah.
And so I look at a guy like that, I mean, is it something where you think that 100% of the players were doing it, or... I mean, can we put a percentage on it? How can we prove who was doing it and who wasn't? Because, as a fan, I looked at Ken Griffey Jr., and even to this day, I was like, oh my gosh, that guy was like a god because he never did steroids, in my opinion. And, he was just, he was a stud back then.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of the context behind like steroids and the steroid era comes into play. Was like, I do think that there was a majority of players probably using steroids, but at the end of the day, like Barry Bonds may have been using steroids, but guess what? Barry Bonds was Barry Bonds before he was steroid Barry Bonds. Like, I could have been using as many roids on the same cycle in the same setting as Barry Bonds, and I'm still probably not going to be as good as Barry Bonds. Like, Barry Bonds was still more talented, which he was a Hall of Famer no matter what, So, like, there could, even if there was 100% people using steroids, like, that doesn't mean 100% of players are good. Like, there's still a talent aspect to that.
Oh yeah.
That's, like, not ever contextually looked at.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the truth of the matter on that. Now, I've noticed you kind of spoke a little bit about you traveling a lot and experiencing different teams and different individual activities you've taken part in within coaching. So this sounds like a lot of time spent into this. Obviously, this is something you love to do. This is your passion in your life. But what has been the most difficult part of being involved in coaching baseball so far to this point for you?
Yeah, that's a very tough question because it's it really it's a very rewarding job no matter what level I was at. The most difficult part is probably honestly recruiting. When I was at an NAIA and when I was at a junior college, at the NAIA that was a very expensive NAIA, and the junior college that was a very underfunded junior college compared to the rest of the conference. And recruiting at those two places was a nightmare and extremely difficult. Like those recruiting itself, like I understand, like when you look at college football, you see Alabama's got the best recruiting class every year.
It's easy.
And like it seems easy. They still have to make the sell. And as good as that player is that's going to Alabama, he also had Miami. He also had Clemson. Like that player probably had the other top 5 programs that are in there, or Ohio State. Like, so there's still a portion of recruiting that has to be done, and it's what makes things like Coastal Carolina did this year, where they were undefeated. I guess they lost their bowl game, but they were undefeated. Like the recruiting aspect of that, and taking a team like Coastal Carolina and going in and beating Power 5 teams, like there was a recruiting aspect to that of positional fit and need and finding the right guy that is unbelievably difficult to do, and that's what made me appreciate recruiting a ton.
It's interesting. I figure it's a good challenge for you, though. It's like one of those things where it's difficult, but it's a challenge, probably a rewarding challenge when you end up getting the kind of guy you're looking for to be a part of the program.
Well, if you get the right 30 guys, you're probably going to win a lot of games, win a national title, win a conference title. It's a pretty rewarding feeling. But if you get the wrong 15 guys, or you get the wrong 5 guys, or in some cases the wrong 1 guy, it could all just blow up, and now you're out of a job.
Yeah. Well, Jason, you got anything else for Connor here?
Yeah, so those are very important points that we just made, but now we're going to get to the most important questions here. So, how much money do you make, Connor? Are you pushing like 7 figures now? Because
no shot.
You know, you're in the Mariner system. I mean, you should be pushing 7 figures by now, right?
No, I should change my answer to your question, Mike. Most difficult job of part of coaching is the pay, because coaches don't get paid nothing from every level. They don't get paid nothing.
All right.
That's the most difficult part.
And that's true even in major leagues.
Yeah, you would be thoroughly surprised to know what like a major league coach makes. Like you would think, like you see salaries, like these giant Mike Trout type salaries, and then you would be amazed to see what like major league coaches, college coaches, all that make. College coaches actually probably make the most.
Yeah.
I think it was that way in NCAA football as well, where your Nick Sabans of the world made more than I think your Bill Belichick's did. So
College coaches make bank.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
Compared to, I mean, it's not football money, but
right. Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So anyway, you know, the money part is important, but you know, I was sitting there thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna interview Connor. What's the most important question that I could ask him? And you know, I tried to put myself in your shoes, right? I was like, what would it be like to be like a hitting coach or coordinator of hitting strategy, whatever you want to call it? And I thought to myself, you know, do they allow you to get drunk in the dugout? Is that, or do you sit in the dugout?
I haven't
watched
watched too many movies, Jason.
So yeah, that's only in the movies for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a thing for anybody.
I mean, bad Santa, but bad coach.
There are teams that will allow coaches like post game, like managers will have a fridge of just 1,000 Bud Lights, and they're just passing it out. You know,
Nice.
like, that's a real thing in a lot of teams.
Bringing a keg to the clubhouse, kind of deal.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, nobody does that.
Okay. If you were going to say yes, I was going to be like, where do I sign up? I work for you. You're my boss. You know, I'll sign on the dotted line. But you know, you're not...
that does happen. That does happen in baseball.
Okay.
Well, I do have a couple more
Not
questions.
in the dugout, but like
Okay.
post-game. Yeah.
Well, I want to do it in the dugout.
Yeah,
so
no.
you're not.
That's where you just get that dugout seat in the dugout next to the Royals one. You could do that.
Oh, that's
All
true.
right.
I could pass you some beers over, hide them that way. I got a couple more. These two kind of blend together for you. But I was curious if you could tell me your best baseball-related story as far as within your career as a coach, and then as well as what's your ultimate goal for your future in baseball as a coach.
So best baseball story was probably, this year obviously sucked for a lot of reasons. But one of the cool parts that came out of it was we had our spring training 2.0 at the major league stadiums. And so I was in Seattle for 3 months, and that first month was our spring training, and we had it at the stadium, and walking in there for the first time, like knowing, looking around and just be like, holy crap, like like I work for these dudes. Like I'm about to throw BP to major league hitters and hit ground balls to major league hitters. Like, this is really, really
pretty
cool.
cool.
You know, like this is awesome.
You're doing something they do for Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah, seriously.
It's your job.
And like the coolest moment was easily, I think it was our second day. First day I was in the cages during BP time, and then the second day I was throwing BP and throwing BP to big leaguers. Like, super cool. Like I'm throwing to Dan Vogelbach, who made an all-star team a year ago, and he's hitting just second deck, like no doubter homers, and like super awesome. And I'm throwing to Kyle Lewis, who just won Rookie of the Year, and throwing to Kyle Seager, who's played in the bigs for 9 years, future Mariners Hall of Famer. Like, super cool. Like, that was easily, it was like goosebumps, you know, it was like chills. It's like how cool it was. And knowing I got to go there every single day, and then going to our AAA affiliate in Tacoma, and doing our alternate side, our taxi squad, and we had mostly of prospects there, like, you know, Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kelenic, who are both top fives, and Logan Gilbert, who could be an ace one day. Like, seeing all these guys every single day and throwing to them and working with them, like, it was awesome.
So really your best baseball-related story is basically a continuation where each day you get to experience something new with a new big leaguer on the way up, prospect. So really you have like a new story every day. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know, as odd as it sounds, like one of my favorite stories of my time in pro ball is when we were in spring training, every day I would throw probably 150, 200 balls at max intent, max velocity of mixed BP, of like fastball, sliders, everything, to Austin Nola, who we traded to the Padres. And Nola had a career year, all-star type year, and every day he and I would be in there for about 30 to 45 minutes, and it actually put me on the injured list. when I left Seattle, my first round of BP I threw in Tacoma, my elbow was just on fire. I was like, okay, this is not normal, because normally, you know, when I was coaching junior college and NAIA, we would throw for 2 straight hours every day.
Yeah. And
it was nothing. And so normally I'm used to that, but you know, throwing as hard as I can every single day to Nola for 200 pitches wore me out. But then, you know, going on to see Nola have the success he had, and then see him go to the Padres, like, I never told Nola anything about a swing or anything like that. Like, we would talk about, you know, shoot the breeze in the cage, you know, but knowing that, like, the way he practices is what sets himself apart from others, because it's so challenging and difficult, and then seeing him succeed was awesome.
Yeah. And also to go on with that as well, just what is your ultimate future goal in baseball? Do you want to eventually become a manager of a team, or what is your lifelong goals whenever you're 46, 56?
You know, ideally I would love to be a manager. Like, that would be awesome. To say what I want to do would be tough, largely because I didn't imagine 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that I would have been at Major League Spring Training throwing to Kyle Seager, who I watched on TV all the time. Like, wouldn't have pictured that, so it's hard for me to say, you know, like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Because I have no idea.
Well, you know, you've obviously had a lot of success in the game, Connor, so I want to congratulate you for that. You've got, even at your young age, you've got a lot of contributions to the game, and so whatever your goals are, whatever you decide those to be in the future, I wish you the best of luck, and I thank you for being on our show.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining in. You are actually our very first special guest on the show, so we appreciate that very much. And we hope to have you and many others like you actually in the future come along and join with us and have a discussion. And especially going into baseball season, and the Mariners just came off a season of 27-33 and have not won their division since 2001. So I'm hoping you can be a part of the process of getting that team turned around and headed in the right direction, which I know you got high hopes for them. So.
Yeah, I think we're close. And even then, 27-33, a lot of people didn't expect that, and we were in the mix for the playoffs going into the last week there of the COVID season. So we're pretty happy where we're at, and we've got a long way to go, but I think we're close.
Yeah, I wish you and the Mariners the absolute best going forward. So thank you very much, and this will wrap up our special segment here with Connor Dawson with the Sports Buffoons over here. Thank you, JG.
We are out.
I'll see you on the next one.